Tonight, we journey high above the Vale of Arryn, where the cold winds whip through jagged mountain peaks and the vast, empty skies stretch endlessly above. At the very top, perched like a bird's nest on the highest crag, stands the Eyrie, a fortress so isolated, it seems to exist in a world of its own. The only path to it is a treacherous climb up narrow, winding goat paths, where the icy winds bite at your skin and the air grows thin, leaving even the strongest gasping for breath. It is a beautiful place, yes, but also unforgiving. The Eyrie, with its stone halls and towering walls, has stood for centuries, but not without cost. The cold, the isolation, and the ever-present wind have made life here slow, difficult, and, at times, unbearable. In this sleepy tale, we will follow the quiet routines of the servants, the guards, and the maids who spend their days in solitude, far removed from the bustling world below. As you listen, feel the freezing winds sweeping through the stone corridors, the constant climb of icy steps, and the eerie silence that fills every empty hall. The work is exhausting, and the air is thin, but every task, no matter how simple, moves at its own slow, deliberate pace. So settle in, close your eyes, and drift away to this isolated stronghold, where the mountains touch the sky, and the world below seems miles and miles away. Let the steady, quiet rhythms of the Eyrie lull you into a peaceful rest tonight. As the first light of dawn begins to stretch across the snow-covered mountains, the climb to the Eyrie begins, slow and steady, one careful step at a time. The narrow, winding path wends its way up the steep cliffs, barely wide enough for one person to pass through at a time. The rocks are slick with frost, and the biting wind makes every breath feel sharp, as if the very air is trying to push you back. Each step feels like an eternity, the mountain's cold fingers gripping at your limbs, forcing you to move slowly and deliberately. The path to the Eyrie is not a simple walk. It is a test of endurance, where every step up feels like a struggle against the mountain's cold embrace. The climb is treacherous, rocks jutting out, icy patches underfoot, and the constant wind that howls through the narrow gaps in the rocks. Each gust of wind sends a chill through your bones, and even the most seasoned climbers can feel the weariness setting in. The higher you climb, the thinner the air becomes. Each breath is harder to take, each inhale feeling less satisfying than the one before. The icy wind steals the warmth from your body, and your muscles burn with the strain of the relentless climb. The path is narrow, winding its way up the steep cliffside, and as you look down, the valley below seems so far away, a drop so long it makes your head spin. But still, you press on. The climb is exhausting, but the sight of the Eyrie waiting at the summit, that imposing fortress high above the Vale of Arryn, keeps you going. It stands like a silent sentinel, watching over the land below, its towers piercing the sky. You know that the journey will be worth it, that the beauty of the Eyrie, perched atop the world, will be unlike anything you've seen before. But for now, there's only the climb, the freezing wind, the steep incline, and the exhaustion that seems to seep into your very bones with each step. As you continue your climb, the air grows thinner, and each breath becomes more labored. The path narrows with every step, the winding, treacherous goat paths cutting through jagged rocks and sharp ridges. The snow, now deeper as you ascend higher, drifts across the narrow ledges, making footing even more dangerous. The cold bites at your exposed skin, the wind howling like a beast in the distance, cutting through layers of clothing and forcing you to huddle into your cloak. Each step becomes a careful calculation, each movement slow and deliberate, as though every inch of this treacherous path demands your full attention. The ground beneath you is slick with ice, and there's no telling when the next gust of wind will hit or if the snow will obscure your view completely. It is as if the mountain itself is pushing back against your every move, testing your resolve and reminding you of its impenetrable power. The sheer magnitude of this place is overwhelming, so vast, so cold, so relentless. With each breath, the freezing air fills your lungs, sharp and biting, leaving your chest aching. You can feel the thinness of the air as you climb higher, each inhale filling you with less and less oxygen, making the journey feel as though it's stretching on endlessly. The cold is both a physical and mental challenge, leaving you dizzy with each step, your legs heavy as they continue to carry you upward, aching with the strain of the unrelenting climb. You take a moment to pause, placing your gloved hand against the stone of the cliff face to steady yourself. Below you, the view stretches out into the endless expanse of snow-covered mountains, the white, unforgiving landscape reaching beyond the horizon. It is a sight that is as breathtaking as it is intimidating. The sharp cliffs around you, the drop so steep it could swallow you whole, are a constant reminder of how small you are in this vast, unyielding world. The mountain seems to stretch up into the heavens, its peak disappearing into the gray sky above. The wind continues to howl around you, biting at your face, but it is no longer as terrifying. You have come to accept it. This constant force of nature, relentless and unyielding, is now a part of your journey, like an old, familiar friend. But there is something undeniably beautiful about the view, even as it sends a shiver down your spine. The Eyrie, perched atop the highest peak, is so close now. You can feel it calling you, a symbol of strength and endurance, standing tall against the harsh elements, as if it were the last outpost of humanity in this barren land. The thought of reaching it, of finally stepping into the halls of this ancient fortress, pushes you onward. But you know the journey is far from over. The path ahead is still steep, the air still thin, and the wind still biting. You resume your climb, each step harder than the last. You move more cautiously now, placing your feet carefully on the rocks, testing each new foothold before transferring your weight. The exhaustion is creeping in, your body begging for rest, but you can't afford to stop now. The mountain tests you, pushing you to your limits with every step. The rhythmic sound of your breath, now more labored, is the only thing that keeps you company, a reminder that you are still moving forward, no matter how slow. The path becomes even more treacherous as you climb higher. The rocks seem to grow sharper, and the snow becomes thicker, obscuring the way ahead. You find yourself reaching for any handhold you can find, scrambling up the rocks, clutching onto ledges, and pulling yourself over craggy outcrops. The wind is unforgiving, whipping around you like a force of nature, pushing you back and urging you to stop. But you cannot. There is no turning back now. The area waits. The thin air makes it harder to think clearly. The cold and exhaustion start to blur your thoughts, and you wonder how anyone could endure this day after day. Yet, there are people who call the Eyrie home, nobles, servants, and guards who have adapted to this brutal existence. It's a place of strength, yes, but it is also a place of great isolation. The climb up to the Eyrie is a constant reminder of the fortress's design, a place meant to keep others out, and to remind those within that they are far removed from the world below. The path is beginning to level out, and you can feel the end of your climb coming into sight. But the last stretch of the journey is the hardest, the most difficult part. The wind is at its fiercest here. The mountain seems to rise higher than before, and the final ascent is nothing more than a sheer wall of ice and rock. You must use every ounce of your strength to push through, to climb just a little higher, despite the burning in your legs, despite the ache in your chest, despite the voice in your head that tells you to stop. And then, after what feels like an eternity, you reach the summit. The air is still thin here, but it is somehow clearer, colder, and more invigorating. The Eyrie stands before you, majestic and imposing, perched on the edge of the world. You've made it. You've climbed the impossible path, overcome the cold and the exhaustion, and now you stand at the very top, looking out over the Vale of Arryn below. The view is dizzy. The mountain drops away sharply, revealing the valley far below, a patchwork of snow-covered terrain. The wind continues to whip through the stone, but now it's a companion, a reminder of the struggle that brought you here. As you look around, you see the towering stone walls of the Eyrie looming above you, their jagged edges a testament to the fortress's strength and endurance. The climb may have been brutal, but now that you stand here, in the shadow of the Eyrie, it feels as though it was all worth it. But as you take your first steps into the fortress, you are reminded of its isolation. The walls are thick with silence, and the wind cuts through the narrow halls like a ghost, echoing off the stone. The Eyrie is not a place of warmth or comfort. It is a place of fortitude, where only the strong can survive, and where the cold is as much a part of life as the stone itself. The mountain has shown you just a taste of what life in the Eyrie will be like, and you wonder how anyone can endure it, day in and day out. But now, as you enter the halls of this great fortress, you understand that it is a place where only the strongest survive. You have made it up this treacherous path, and now you are standing on the edge of the world, in the heart of the Eyrie. The moment you step onto the stone floor of the Eyrie, a chilling sense of finality settles over you. The air, while still thin and biting, seems to have a weight to it now, as though the mountain itself is watching, assessing, judging. The cold inside the Eyrie is different from the one outside. It is the cold of stone, the cold of isolation, and it wraps itself around you like an unwelcoming embrace. You stand at the base of a long corridor, its walls made of gray stone that seems to absorb the warmth of the firelight. There is no immediate sense of comfort here. The towering walls of the area are imposing, and their vastness creates a sense of space that feels both awe-inspiring and intimidating. The silence is thick. It's the kind of silence that presses against your ears, filling the room with a sense of unease. It is a solitude you hadn't quite expected, not after enduring the freezing winds and exhausting climb. A soft creak of stone echoes through the halls as a servant appears at the far end of the corridor. You follow her, your steps slower now, the exhaustion from yesterday's climb still in your muscles. The cold has seeped deep into your bones, but it is the work of the Eyrie that keeps the fortress alive. The steps are narrow and treacherous, the ice-covered stones slick beneath your boots. As you climb higher, the wind picks up, pushing against you, biting at your exposed skin. It seems to know no mercy, and the higher you get, the more it seems to press in, relentless and unforgiving. When you reach the top, your breath comes in sharp, uneven gasps. The air here is thinner, colder, harder to breathe. You pause for a moment, hands on your knees, your heart pounding from the climb. The wind has intensified now, whipping around the cliff face, its icy fingers tugging at your cloak, but you're used to it. You've learned to ignore the cold, to accept it as part of life here. There is no room for weakness in the Eyrie. The courtyard at the top is vast, empty, and cold. The stone walls of the fortress loom over you, and the high towers seem to pierce the sky. There is nothing here except the cold, the stone, and the endless expanse of the Vale below. From this height, the world seems distant, almost unreachable. The quiet of the mountain is overwhelming, and you wonder how anyone can live here, day after day, surrounded by such isolation. As you approach the main entrance, you see the first of the guards standing watch by the massive wooden doors. They stand still, their eyes scanning the horizon, their cloaks billowing slightly in the wind. The guards here are no strangers to the harsh conditions. They have weathered storms, endured the cold, and stood vigilant against the threats that might come from below. Their faces are impassive, their postures rigid, as if they are part of the stone itself. Their duty is unchanging, to protect the Eyrie, to stand against any threat, no matter how small or great. Their service is constant, and their lives are defined by it. You nod at them as you pass, and they return the gesture with silent acknowledgement. The guards rarely speak, and when they do, it is only out of necessity. They are part of the structure of the Eyrie, another layer of this fortress built to withstand time and the world outside. Their role is clear, to endure, to protect, and to live with the cold, the wind, and the silence. Inside, the kitchen is a different world. It is the heart of the Eyrie, the one place where warmth exists, though it is a fleeting warmth, the kind that barely fights back the encroaching cold of the mountain. The large stone hearth crackles in the corner, and the smell of food begins to fill the air. It is simple fare, nothing luxurious, just the basic nourishment needed to survive. The kitchen staff works tirelessly, preparing meals for the noble family of House Arryn and the few who live within these walls. There is no comfort here, only the knowledge that survival is the only thing that matters. The cook is already stirring a large pot of stew, the steam rising into the cold air. The wooden spoons scrape against the metal cauldron, a soft rhythm that is almost comforting, despite the chill. The other servants move around, preparing bread, cutting vegetables, and heating what little food they have. The work is slow, methodical, and necessary. Every task, no matter how small, is part of the rhythm of the Eyrie. Nothing is rushed. Every movement, every step is deliberate, as though the cold has forced life here to slow down and take its time. The air inside the kitchen is thick with the smell of food, stew simmering in large cauldrons, the scent of baking bread, the sharpness of garlic and onions. The fire crackles in the hearth, its warmth a fleeting comfort against the constant chill. The kitchen is full of the hum of work, the clink of metal against stone, the rustle of clothes as servants move about their tasks. The sounds are familiar, comforting even, but they do little to ease the weight of the place. You step into the kitchen and greet the cook, who offers you a tired but kind smile. There is little time for pleasantries here. The work is demanding, and there is always something to do. The cook hands you a small portion of bread and stew, a meager meal, but it will suffice. The bread is dense, the stew hearty, but there is no extravagance here. Every bite is a reminder of just how hard life in the Eyrie truly is. There is no room for excess, no room for indulgence. Life here is simple, stripped down to the basics of survival. As you sit to eat, the sound of the wind outside begins to rise again, the howling wind pressing against the stone walls. It is a reminder that the Eyrie is not a place of comfort. It is a place of endurance. The cold, the isolation, the silence, all of it is a test. A test of strength, of will, of the ability to survive in the face of harshness and adversity. The people who live here have learned to live with it, to accept it, and to endure. The Eyrie, with all its cold and isolation, is a fortress of strength. And to live here is to be shaped by the mountain, the wind, and the silence. The wind outside continues to howl as you finish your meal, the last remnants of bread crumbling into the empty bowl. The stew has warmed you somewhat, but the cold that pervades every corner of the Eyrie refuses to loosen its grip. Even inside the kitchen, despite the small fire in the hearth, the chill clings to your skin, biting at your exposed flesh. The warmth from the cauldron is a fleeting comfort, one that fades as soon as you step away. After eating, you rise from the table, and the staff continues their tasks around you, moving with practiced ease. The cook stirs the pot, adding ingredients here and there, ensuring the meal will be ready for the nobles of House Arryn later in the evening. The scent of the simmering stew lingers in the air, but it is not the richness of a grand feast. Rather, it is the simplicity of survival, of sustenance, and of endurance. You take a deep breath, inhaling the air in the kitchen, and make your way out of the room. The sounds of the hearth's crackling fire and the clink of metal utensils become faint as you walk back through the cold hallways, the stone walls pressing in on you. The silence in the Eyrie is almost suffocating, but you're learning to live with it. There is no place more still than this fortress, perched on its mountain peak. It feels as though the very air here has frozen in time, and nothing ever truly changes. The servants, too, have learned to live in the silence. They move with quiet purpose, doing their work with few words exchanged, their faces blank with the weariness of daily labor. There are no frivolous conversations here, no idle chatter to fill the space. In the Eyrie, work is the focus, and every moment is an opportunity to fulfill a necessary task. Whether hauling water from the base of the mountain or tending to the needs of the noble house, the rhythm of life here moves slowly, steadily, with no room for distraction. You make your way down the narrow corridors, where the walls seem to close in around you, the dim light from the few lanterns that hang from the stone ceiling flickering in the drafts. The halls are cold, the floors of stone cold beneath your boots. Your footsteps echo through the empty passages, each step reminding you of just how quiet this place truly is. There is a solemnity here, a quiet reverence for the daily struggles of life. It's a place where nothing is rushed, and everything is done at its own slow pace. The passage of time seems to be marked only by the climb, the hauling of water, the preparation of food, and the continued endurance of the people who call this place home. The staff's quarters are sparse, the rooms small, with barely enough room to move. The servants sleep in simple beds, their walls bare, save for the occasional worn cloak or a faded piece of fabric hanging as a makeshift curtain. There are no comforts here, no luxuries, only the essentials. The cold stone of the rooms is as unyielding as the mountain itself, and there is no warmth to be found. The air is thin, and the silence is even more profound within these walls. As you pass by these rooms, you hear faint sounds of movement, soft footsteps, the quiet sound of voices, but nothing more. The people who live here do not speak loudly. They do not raise their voices in laughter or sorrow. Their lives are a constant, unbroken rhythm, and their focus remains on the task at hand. The silence is their companion, just as the cold is their constant foe. The fortress of the Eyrie is vast, but it is also empty. Even the great halls, despite their grandeur, feel cold and distant. The high, vaulted ceilings seem to stretch on forever, their stone arches looming above like a reminder of the distance between you and the world below. The space feels cavernous, but also hauntingly empty, as though it was built for more people than actually inhabit it. The stone walls are adorned with little decoration, and what little adorns them seems worn and faded, as if time itself has worn down even the walls of the Eyrie. It is a fortress meant to endure, to resist the passage of time, but it has done so at the expense of warmth, of life. As you move deeper into the heart of the fortress, you can hear the distant murmurs of the noble family of House Arryn. Their chambers, separated from the servants' quarters by thick stone walls and long corridors, are where the nobility resides. The lords and ladies of House Arryn live in a cold, isolated splendor, surrounded by the beauty of the fortress but also its isolation. The Eyrie is not a place of comfort. It is a place of strength, of survival, and of endurance. The guards who stand watch are not immune to the cold either. They stand in the hallways, silent and vigilant, their faces half obscured by the hoods of their cloaks. They do not speak, do not move, save to shift their weight or glance over their shoulders. Their presence is ever watchful, like sentinels placed to ensure that no danger breaches the cold, lonely fortress. They are part of the foundation of the Eyrie, just as much a fixture of the stone as the walls themselves. Their service is one of silence and endurance, watching for threats that may never come. As you walk past the guards, their presence is almost invisible, a part of the background. They blend into the fortress like shadows, moving with quiet purpose and always alert. The Eyrie has no place for distractions. It has no time for frivolous words or gestures. It is a place where focus, strength, and endurance are the only things that matter. The guards, like everyone else, are here to fulfill a purpose, to protect and serve, but in doing so, they too are bound by the same cold, harsh reality that defines life in this mountain stronghold. The daily routines in the Eyrie do not change. Every day, the same rituals are repeated: the climb for water, the preparation of meals, the tending to the noble family, the watching of the gates. The people who live here are bound to this repetitive rhythm, this slow, unyielding pace of life. It is a life defined by endurance, by the daily struggle against the mountain and the cold. There's no escape. There's no relief. The Eyrie demands that those who live here rise to meet its challenges day after day with no end in sight. And yet, amidst the cold, the isolation, and the routine, there is a certain sense of purpose that exists here. It is a place built on survival, on the strength of those who live here and who endure its harshness. The Eyrie may be cold, distant, and unforgiving, but it is also a symbol of resilience. The stone walls may be unyielding, but they have stood the test of time, and so too have the people who call this place home. You pause in the corridor, the stone beneath your feet cold and unyielding, and reflect on the life that exists here. It is a life that may seem harsh to those who are unfamiliar with it, but it is a life that has shaped those who endure it. The Eyrie is not a place for the weak. It is a place where only the strongest can thrive, where survival is the ultimate goal, and where every day is a reminder of the strength needed to continue. As you move forward, you realize that, just like the people of the Eyrie, you too must learn to adapt. You must learn to endure. The mountain has already tested you with its climb, and now it will test you with its isolation. The Eyrie will not give you comfort or solace, but it will give you strength, if you are strong enough to face its challenges. The routine in the Eyrie is relentless, like the mountain itself. Each day stretches out before you in a slow, predictable rhythm. The servants wake early, long before the first light of day, for there is always work to be done. The climb down the mountain to fetch water, the cold, arduous trek that takes hours, is the first task of the day. Every servant must make the journey, hauling heavy buckets filled with water up the treacherous path, the thin mountain air making every step a battle. It is a task that seems endless, but it is one of the few things that are constant in the Eyrie. As you rise from your bed in the dim morning light, you are reminded once more of the cold that surrounds you. The stone beneath your feet is unyielding, and the room is filled with the chill of the mountain, a coldness that refuses to let go. You pull on your cloak, the fur lining stiff from the frigid air, and prepare for another day. The air is thin here, making each breath feel shallow, as though there is not enough oxygen to fill your lungs. The wind, which howls outside, seeps in through the cracks in the stone, pressing against your skin like an invisible force. The halls of the Eyrie are quiet in the early hours. You pass the other servants as they prepare for the day ahead, their faces tired but resolute. There is no time for rest here. The mountain does not allow it. The silence of the fortress seems to hang heavy in the air, as though the very stone walls are holding their breath. The castle is so isolated, so far removed from the world below, that it feels as if the flow of time itself is slower here, as though the mountain has stopped it altogether. The servants move with purpose, each one focused on the task they must complete. There is no idle chatter, no laughter. The life here is one of quiet efficiency, every task carried out with the understanding that there is little time to waste. Every movement is measured, deliberate. There is no room for distraction in the Eyrie. The work must be done, and it must be done slowly, methodically, without pause. You step out of your room and into the corridor. The cold air rushes past you as you make your way toward the stairwell, where the servants gather before heading down to the base of the mountain to fetch water. The winding staircase, carved into the stone, leads you down through the castle, past the great halls and chambers of House Arryn, whose members are still asleep, hidden away in their warm rooms. As you descend, you pass by the guards standing silently at their posts, their faces impassive and alert. The guards of the Eyrie are always vigilant, standing watch over the fortress with unwavering focus, ready to defend it against any threat that may arise. Outside, the wind picks up, and the temperature drops even further. The ground is slick with ice, the path treacherous, and the air thin. You join the others who are heading down to the well, the heavy buckets in tow. The weight of the water is a constant reminder of the labor that life in the Eyrie demands. The climb down the mountain seems almost as difficult as the climb up. Every step you take feels precarious, each footfall a careful calculation. The ice beneath you makes every movement slow, every step an exercise in balance. The wind cuts through the narrow paths, biting at your skin, and the cold reaches deep into your bones, making it feel as though your very body is becoming one with the mountain itself. The path down is long, and the journey to the well feels like an eternity. The climb is never easy, but the process is necessary. The water must be carried up from the valley below, and it is the most important task of the day. Without it, the Eyrie cannot survive. The need for water is constant, and each servant must bear the burden of hauling it up the mountainside. The journey is grueling, the air so thin that it feels like you are suffocating with each breath, but you press on. The strength required to endure this is something that only the people of the Eyrie understand. To survive here, you must become accustomed to the weight of the mountain, to the endless labor, to the cold and the isolation. When you finally reach the well, you pause for a moment, catching your breath. The cold water from the well is refreshing, but it also reminds you of the distance between you and the rest of the world. The Vale, far below, is a world removed from this place. The distance between the Eyrie and the life that exists below the mountain feels vast, like a chasm that cannot be crossed. The wind howls as you fill your bucket, and the sound of it is a reminder that you are, in a sense, alone here. The Eyrie is a fortress, but it is also a prison, locked away from the world outside. Once the buckets are filled, you and the other servants begin the long trek back up the mountain. The climb is even more difficult now, the weight of the water dragging at your shoulders with every step. The wind bites harder, and the air grows even thinner. Every breath feels like it could be your last, but you press on. There's no other choice. The water must be brought to the Eyrie. The task must be completed, no matter how exhausting, no matter how brutal. As you ascend, the view below you grows smaller, the landscape disappearing behind a veil of snow and mist. The Eyrie, perched on the mountainside, stands tall and distant, a symbol of strength, but also of isolation. The wind continues to scream through the valley below, and the cold seems to grow more intense with each step. The ascent is even harder than the descent, your legs burning from the effort, but you force yourself to keep going. The air grows colder the higher you climb, the wind battering you with renewed intensity. The Eyrie feels like it is pulling you upward, as if the mountain is claiming you, demanding your endurance. The stone steps are slick with ice, and the path narrows as you approach the gates of the fortress. Your body aches from the climb, your muscles sore from the exertion. But when you finally reach the top, the gates of the Eyrie open before you, and the fortress seems to exhale, welcoming you back to its cold embrace. You pass through the gates, and the guards give you a silent nod as you make your way back inside. The kitchen, where the warmth of the hearth greets you, is a welcome relief. The fire crackles in the hearth, its warmth a fleeting comfort against the cold that still lingers in your bones. The cook greets you with a weary smile, his face weathered by years of enduring the harshness of life in the Eyrie. The smell of food fills the air's simple, hearty meals, the staple of life here. There are no luxuries, no extravagances. Every meal is a reminder of the harshness of this life, but also of the strength it takes to endure. You place the buckets of water down, and the cook gives you a brief nod of approval. The work is done for the day, and the routine of the Eyrie will continue. The meal will be prepared, the fires will burn low, and the silence will fall once again over the fortress. There is no time for celebration, no time for rest. Life in the Eyrie is a constant cycle, a never-ending loop of work, labor, and survival. The days in the Eyrie continue in their relentless, predictable rhythm. There is no room for luxury here, only the slow, constant tasks of survival. Each day begins before dawn, and the cold that settles in the walls of the fortress never quite lets go. The stone floors remain chilly to the touch, the air perpetually thin, and the sky above, though vast, often feels as though it is pressing down, heavy with the weight of isolation. Life here is a series of repetitive movements, a daily battle against the cold and the solitude, but somehow, in the repetition, a form of peace emerges. The morning rituals begin once more as the sun rises, though it can barely be seen through the thick clouds and mist that cloak the mountain's peak. The servants rise with the first light, the faintest glow in the sky. Their faces are tired but focused, accustomed to the early hours, the cold, and the tasks that must be done. There is no time for hesitation or doubt here. The work must go on. You get up from your small cot, feeling the weight of the cold stone beneath you. The room is dim, lit only by the soft light that filters in through your small window. Outside, the wind is picked up again, howling through the narrow gaps in the stone walls. You shiver as you move to the basin of cold water, splashing your face to wake yourself. The sensation of cold shocks your system, and the thin air makes each breath feel like a laborious task. But you don't linger. There's no time to waste. The work waits for no one in the Eyrie. The hallway outside your room is quiet. The other servants are already moving, though few speak. The coldness of the stone seems to have seeped into the people here. They move with purpose, silently going about their duties. There is a quiet efficiency in the way they work, a shared understanding that the work must be done, even if the day ahead is filled with exhausting, repetitive tasks. You move through the hall, the flickering of lanterns casting long shadows across the walls. The stone steps leading down to the main halls creak under your weight, as if the mountain itself is groaning in response to your movements. The steps are slick with ice from the cold air, and you move carefully, taking each step slowly, ensuring you don't lose your footing. It is a daily challenge to simply walk in the Eyrie. The fortress built upon this high peak doesn't allow for the ease of movement that other, warmer places might. Every step is deliberate, every movement measured. The kitchen, as always, is the heart of the Eyrie. The fire crackles in the hearth, casting warm light across the stone walls. The cook stands by the fire, stirring a pot of stew, his face lined with the exhaustion of years spent in this cold, isolated place. The smell of simmering broth fills the air, and though it is a simple, humble meal, it is the kind of nourishment needed to survive in the Eyrie. There are no elaborate feasts here. The food is basic: stews, breads, and occasionally roasted meat. Everything is meant to sustain, not to indulge. The kitchen staff moves around in quiet coordination, chopping vegetables, stirring pots, and preparing bread. The rhythmic clank of knives against cutting boards, the soft rustling of flour bags, and the gentle simmer of the stew create a steady, calming soundtrack to the otherwise silent fortress. There is no sense of urgency here, just the slow, constant hum of work that fills the space. The kitchen is warm in contrast to the cold stone of the hallways, and the fire provides not just heat but a sense of comfort, a reminder that life continues in the Eyrie, no matter how harsh the world outside may be. The smell of freshly baked bread soon fills the air, its warm scent mingling with the savory aromas of the stew. You watch as the bakers pull loaves from the oven, their crusts golden and slightly cracked. The bread is dense and hearty, just enough to fill the stomach after a long day of hard work. There is nothing extravagant about it, but it is nourishing, just what is needed to survive in this place. As the meal nears completion, the servants begin to assemble the food, preparing it for the noble family of House Arryn. The task is always the same, and though it may seem small, it is no less important. Each meal is carefully prepared, each portion measured. There is no room for waste here. The resources are limited, and everything must be used efficiently. It is a daily reminder of the harshness of life at the Eyrie, where even the smallest luxuries are a rare treat. You take your place in line with the others, ready to bring the food to the dining hall. The corridors are cold again as you walk, the flickering of your lantern casting eerie shadows on the stone walls. The cold air presses in on you, the draft of wind seeping through every crack in the fortress. The air feels thin again as you make your way toward the grand dining hall, where the nobles of House Arryn will dine. Their chambers are separated from the staff's quarters, hidden away behind thick stone walls, but you know they are up there, in their rooms, preparing for the day ahead. The grand hall of the Eyrie is vast, its high ceilings echoing with the faint sound of movement, but the space remains mostly empty. The long table where House Arryn dines is set with simple silverware, the long wooden surface covered with platters of food. The high windows let in minimal light, the faint glow of daylight barely visible through the thin veil of clouds and mist. There is no warmth in the light here. It feels cold, distant. The Eyrie is a place of isolation, where the warmth of the sun is little more than a faint memory. The meal is served in silence, the servants standing aside as the nobles of House Arryn take their seats. The clatter of silver against porcelain is the only sound, and even that is muffled by the vastness of the hall. The servants are not part of the conversation, not part of the family. They are simply there to serve, to fulfill their role in the machinery of the Eyrie. There is no warmth in their interactions with the nobles, no friendliness in their exchanges. The relationship between those who serve and those who are served is a distant one, a cold one, built on the understanding that the fortress exists in a world apart from the rest of Westeros. As the nobles begin to eat, you step back into the shadows of the hall, your tasks completed for the moment. The silence in the grand hall is almost deafening, broken only by the sound of utensils scraping against plates, the faint murmur of conversation that doesn't quite reach you. The Eyrie is a place where the distance between the nobility and the servants is as much physical as it is emotional. The servants are always present, but never truly seen. The noble family is always at the center of attention, the heart of the fortress, but they are as distant as the mountain itself. You watch for a moment, before stepping out of the hall, back into the cold. The wind is sharp outside, and the silence presses in once more. The mountains surrounding the area are vast, unyielding, and quiet. They seem to stretch on forever, a reminder that, in this place, there is no escape. The cold is always with you. The silence is always present. And life moves slowly, methodically, with no room for frivolity, for luxuries. Everything must be done with purpose. As you make your way back through the fortress, your footsteps echo in the empty halls. The stone seems to swallow up the sound, as though even the mountain doesn't wish to hear it. The castle is alive with its own rhythm, its own life, but it is a life defined by endurance. The Eyrie is a place that requires you to survive, not to thrive, and the people who live here have learned to accept that. The daily tasks are always the same: climbing the mountain, preparing meals, serving the nobility, but it is in the repetition, in the endurance of it all, that life in the Eyrie takes shape. The wind howls once more as you step into the servants' quarters, the warmth of the hearth a welcome reprieve from the cold outside. You settle into your small space, knowing that tomorrow will be the same as today. The climb, the meals, the silence, it will all repeat itself again and again and again. But as the warmth of the fire seeps into your bones, you realize that this repetition is the essence of survival here. To live in the Eyrie is to endure, to accept the cold, the silence, and the isolation. It is a life shaped by the mountain, and only those who can bear it will survive. The silence of the Eyrie is unlike any other. It isn't the silence of peaceful solitude or the calm of a quiet night. It is the silence of a place that exists apart from the world, where the winds howl through ancient stone corridors and the cold seeps into the very bones of those who call it home. There is a quiet here that is oppressive, as if the fortress itself has its own heartbeat, its own rhythm, one that beats in sync with the endless isolation of the mountain. The first thing you notice when you awaken is the cold. It creeps into your bones as soon as you open your eyes, a reminder that the Eyrie has no mercy. The stone floor beneath you is as cold as the air that fills the room. The warmth from the fire, though comforting in the evening, has long since faded, leaving only the chill to settle in. The fur blanket that you've wrapped around yourself offers little relief against the cold of the stone walls, which seem to absorb any warmth that attempts to infiltrate them. You shiver as you stretch your limbs, your body sore from the relentless climb of the previous day, and you feel a pang of hesitation. The mountain outside may be cold, but inside the Eyrie, the cold feels almost more personal. The fortress, carved into the very heart of the mountain, feels as though it exists in a state of perpetual winter. The cold is not a mere inconvenience. It is an ever-present companion, one that you cannot escape. No matter how thick the cloak, no matter how many layers of clothing you wear, the chill remains. Even the fires, which are stoked carefully to ward off the worst of the cold, cannot fully warm the stone walls. They crackle and glow, their warmth fleeting, and you can feel the heat evaporating into the air, swallowed by the vast emptiness of the fortress. As you pull yourself from the bed, you wrap your cloak tighter around your shoulders and step onto the stone floor. It's still early, the first light of the day barely filtering through the narrow windows of your room. The wind, ever present, whips around the corners of the fortress, rattling the shutters and sending the occasional shiver through the walls. The faint sound of the wind, as constant as the cold, fills the air with an eerie, almost ghostly quality. It's a sound you've grown used to in the Eyrie, one that is as familiar as the stone beneath your feet, but no less unsettling. The hallway outside your room is dark and quiet. The only sound is the soft shuffle of footsteps as the other servants move through the corridors, preparing for the day's work. The servants of the Eyrie are up early, before even the first rays of sunlight creep over the mountain's edge. They have little time to waste. The work here is constant, the demands of survival unyielding. You step into the hallway, the stone floors cold under your boots, and make your way to the kitchen where the first steps of the day are already being taken. The kitchen is the warmest place in the Eyrie, the hearths glowing with firelight, and the scent of food, simple but hearty, fills the air. The cook is already at work, stirring a pot of stew over the fire, his face illuminated by the flickering flames. His hands are weathered, worn from years of enduring the harsh conditions of this isolated place. He moves with quiet efficiency, his motions practiced and steady. The heat from the fire feels good against the cold of the stone, but it doesn't last long. The chill lingers, no matter how close you stand to the hearth. As the other servants begin to gather, preparing the food for the day and ensuring that everything is in order. You take a moment to observe the work around you. The pace here is slow, methodical. Nothing is rushed, for rushing would only bring exhaustion and failure. The people who live here, work here, have learned to move at the speed of the mountain itself, one careful step at a time. It is a rhythm that keeps the fortress alive, despite its isolation. The kitchen itself is small and humble, though it's larger than the quarters given to the servants. The stone walls are lined with shelves filled with jars of dried herbs and preserved foods, their contents essential for surviving the harsh conditions outside. The fire in the hearth provides just enough warmth to keep the chill at bay, but it never truly banishes it. The cauldrons that hang above the flames are always simmering, cooking the simplest of meals, soups, stews, bread, and whatever meat is available. There is no excess here, no rich meals or luxurious feasts. Everything is simple and utilitarian. The food is nourishing, but that is all. The people of the Eyrie do not live for indulgence or comfort. They live to survive. The other servants move about their tasks with quiet precision, preparing the day's bread, chopping vegetables for the stews, and cleaning the tools used in the kitchen. They do not speak much. There is little to say in this place, and what is said is usually brief, to the point. The cold, the isolation, and the work all demand focus, and there is no time for distractions. Each servant has a role, and they fulfill it without question. There is no room for complaint. In the Eyrie, the work is simply a part of life, and life here demands endurance. Once the bread is in the oven and the stews are simmering, you are sent on a small errand to fetch water from the courtyard. The path outside is treacherous, the stone steps slick with ice, but the work must go on. You step outside into the frigid air, the wind immediately cutting through your cloak, biting at your skin. It takes only a few moments before the cold seeps into your bones, making you shiver despite the layers of clothing you wear. The path down to the well is long, the steps winding down the mountainside, narrow and perilous. Every step you take feels like a struggle against the mountain, against the cold, against the relentless wind. The courtyard of the Eyrie is silent and empty, save for a few servants who are already at work, their breaths visible in the cold air. The well, situated at the far edge of the courtyard, seems small in comparison to the vastness of the mountain that looms around it. You reach the well and begin to lower the bucket, your hands numb from the cold as you strain against the weight of the water. Each movement is slow, deliberate, as you pull the bucket back up and hoist it onto your shoulder. The journey back up is even more taxing, as the weight of the water makes each step feel heavier. The thin air makes it harder to breathe, each gasp a reminder that the Eyrie is not just cold in temperature, but in its very essence. By the time you return to the kitchen, your muscles ache from the climb. The cold has seeped deep into your bones, and the simple task of fetching water has taken its toll. But there is no time to rest. The work must continue. The fires must burn, the bread must bake, and the meals must be prepared. The rhythm of the Eyrie does not stop, not for anyone, not for anything. It is a place where the cold never relents, where the isolation never eases, and where survival requires more than just physical strength. It requires the will to endure. As the hours stretch on and the wind howls around the Eyrie, the work never seems to stop. The fortress stands as a monument to endurance, to survival in the harshest of conditions. The cold winds outside, relentless and biting, are a constant reminder of just how isolated this place is from the world below. Life in the Eyrie is not a life of luxury or indulgence. It is a life of necessity, where every task, no matter how small, is an act of survival. The day has begun to settle into its usual rhythm, slow, methodical, and unhurried. The servants continue their duties, moving between the various chambers of the Eyrie, each with their own specific tasks to fulfill. No one is idle. The work is constant, and the mountain does not give them the luxury of rest. Every part of the Eyrie, from the grand halls to the humble servants' quarters, requires attention, and every servant plays a role in ensuring that the fortress continues to function. You move through the hallways, checking the stoves, assisting with the preparations for the evening meal, and ensuring that the firewood is properly stocked. The kitchen is bustling, with the rhythmic chopping of vegetables, the low hum of conversation, and the steady simmer of the stew that will feed the noble house. The cook, a seasoned veteran of life in the Eyrie, moves with practiced ease, his hands deftly working as he stirs the bubbling pots. His face is weathered, his skin rough from years spent in this cold, isolated fortress, but there is a quiet strength in his movements, a strength that has been honed by decades of survival in this harsh place. The bread is rising in the corner of the kitchen, its dough slowly becoming what will be the staple of the meal. There is no room for extravagance here. Every meal is simple, filling, and nourishing. The food that is prepared in the Eyrie is the food of necessity, designed not to indulge but to keep the people alive, to sustain them in this harsh environment. The bread will be hearty, thick, and dense, just enough to fill the stomachs of those who work day in and day out to ensure the survival of this fortress. The noble family of House Arryn is quiet today. Their chambers are on the highest levels of the Eyrie, far from the common areas, and they are rarely seen except at mealtimes. The lord and lady, their children, and their closest retainers live in a kind of isolation that is perhaps even more extreme than that of the servants. They are not immune to the cold or the wind, but they have the comforts of thick blankets, warm fires, and meals prepared for them. Their lives are distant from the daily struggle of the staff, and while they do not endure the same physical hardships, they are still trapped within the fortress of stone and ice. As the afternoon wanes and the evening approaches, the temperature continues to drop. The walls of the Eyrie, cold and unforgiving, seem to trap the warmth of the hearths within the kitchens and the great hall, but it is never enough. The air is always colder than it should be, and as the sun sets behind the clouds, the shadows in the hallways lengthen. The servants work without pause, their movements purposeful, their faces a mixture of weariness and resolve. There is no room for complaint, no room for hesitation. The work must be done. The cold outside has seeped into the very bones of the fortress. Even the fire in the hearth can do little to chase away the chill that lingers in the walls. The great hall, where the family will eventually gather for dinner, feels empty despite the servants preparing for the evening feast. The tables are set with simple dishes, the bread freshly baked, the stew slowly simmering, but there is a profound sense of isolation here. The hall is vast, the high ceilings making the room feel even colder, and despite the warmth of the fire, the stone walls seem to absorb the heat, leaving the room feeling perpetually cold. The flickering torches cast long shadows that stretch across the floor, adding to the eerie, almost oppressive atmosphere. The guards stand watch, their faces grim as they keep their vigil, scanning the horizon for any signs of danger. The Eyrie, though isolated and removed from the rest of the world, is not without its threats. The castle has been built to withstand siege and attack, its high walls and narrow pathways making it nearly impossible to breach. But still, the guards remain vigilant, always alert, always watching. They are the silent sentinels of the Eyrie, standing as symbols of the fortress's strength and its isolation. As the evening meal approaches, the air grows colder still. You step into the great hall with a tray of food, the cold stone of the floor beneath you sending a shock of cold up through your boots. The lord and lady of House Arryn are seated at the head of the long table, their faces stern, their postures regal. Their children sit at their side, though they seem quieter than usual, as if the weight of the fortress's cold has settled into their bones as well. The meal is simple, as it always is. There is no extravagance, no lavish spread. Only the basics, bread, stew, and some roasted meat. It is enough to fill their stomachs, enough to sustain them for the night, but nothing more. The rest of the staff waits at the edges of the room, standing silent as the meal is served. They do not partake in the feast, for they are not part of the family. They are merely there to serve, to ensure that the noble house is fed and taken care of. Their roles are vital to the functioning of the Eyrie, but they are never truly seen. The lord and lady of House Arryn, though they acknowledge the servants' work, do not interact with them. The distance between the nobility and the staff is as cold and unyielding as the mountain that surrounds them. The meal proceeds in silence. The clinking of silver on porcelain and the soft murmur of conversation between the nobles are the only sounds that fill the hall. There is no laughter, no light-hearted chatter, just the quiet sounds of people eating, the warmth of the fire flickering in the background. The atmosphere is heavy, almost suffocating in its stillness. The Eyrie, for all its grandeur, feels empty. There is no joy here, no laughter, no sense of warmth or community. It is a place where survival takes precedence over everything else, where the cold and the isolation shape every aspect of life. As the meal ends and the noble family retires to their chambers, the servants begin their work again, cleaning the tables, washing the dishes, and preparing for another day. The work is unending, a cycle that repeats itself without interruption. There is no time for rest, no time for relief. The Eyrie demands that its people keep moving, keep working, keep surviving. You step back into the kitchen, where the fire continues to burn low in the hearth. The room is quieter now, the servants finishing their tasks with methodical efficiency. There is no conversation, no laughter, just the steady rhythm of work. The staff has grown accustomed to the isolation, to the endless cycle of work, and though they may grow tired, they never stop. The work is their life, and the Eyrie, in its cold, distant way, has become their home. As you finish cleaning the dishes and prepare to retire for the night, you can't help but feel the weight of the fortress around you. The Eyrie is not a place that allows for ease, for comfort, or for joy. It is a place built on strength, built on survival, and those who live here have learned to endure, to press on despite the cold, the isolation, and the relentless demands of the fortress. And as you finally make your way to your room for the night, the howl of the wind outside filling the empty halls, you realize that in this place, survival is not just a matter of strength or endurance. It is a matter of resilience, of accepting the harshness of the mountain and finding a way to survive within it. The cold may never fully leave, the silence may never be broken, but in the Eyrie, those who endure are the ones who find a way to call this place home. The days in the Eyrie blur together, each one indistinguishable from the last. The relentless cold, the constant work, and the never-ending silence create a rhythm that never falters. The mountain that surrounds you, ever present, looms like a silent guardian, its towering cliffs offering both protection and isolation. The Eyrie, perched at its highest peak, is a fortress that demands endurance from everyone within its walls. The servants rise early, before the first light of dawn begins to creep over the snow-covered peaks. The cold is always there, always biting at the skin, always lingering. You can feel it in your bones as you step out of your room, the stone floor cold beneath your feet. The coldness seems to seep into everything here, the walls, the air, the very earth itself. It's a presence that you cannot escape, no matter how thick your cloak or how tightly you wrap your blanket around you. The first task of the day is the climb. Every servant, every guard, every noble of House Arryn must make the long, arduous trek to the base of the mountain to retrieve water. The well, located far below the Eyrie's cold stone walls, is the only source of fresh water, and the only way to get it is to haul it up the steep, icy slopes. This is no easy feat. The path is narrow and treacherous, the rocks slick with ice and snow, and the cold air is thin and sharp, making it difficult to catch your breath. Every step is a struggle, every movement a test of your endurance. The wind howls through the mountain passes, biting at your exposed skin, making your face feel like it is being scraped with 1,000 icy needles. The climb down is just as exhausting as the ascent. The air feels thin, each breath comes in shallow bursts, and the weight of the water buckets only makes the task more difficult. It's a slow, steady process, one that seems to stretch on forever. There is no relief. The cold is constant, the wind never stops, and the mountain presses in on you, reminding you of just how far removed you are from the world below. You move with purpose, your hands numb from the cold as you grip the buckets. The weight is heavy, but it's a weight you have grown accustomed to. It's the price of survival in the Eyrie. The water must be hauled up, and you must be the one to do it. There is no one else to carry the load, no one else to take your place. The mountain demands that you endure, that you press on despite the exhaustion, despite the freezing wind, despite the endless isolation. As you make your way back up, the path grows steeper, the climb more treacherous. Each step requires careful consideration. You must choose your footing wisely, testing each rock before you commit your weight to it. The wind tugs at your cloak, threatening to pull you off balance, and the air grows colder as you near the summit. You're not just climbing a mountain. You're climbing the very heart of the Eyrie, the heart of the cold, the heart of the silence. By the time you reach the top, your legs ache, your breath comes in ragged gasps, and the cold seems to have seeped into your very soul. But you don't stop. There is no time for rest, no time to catch your breath. The work must go on. The water must be delivered, the meals must be prepared, and the day must continue. The Eyrie doesn't allow for pauses or breaks. Life here moves at its own pace, slow, unyielding, and relentless. When you finally make it back to the kitchens, the fire is still crackling in the hearth, the warmth a welcome reprieve from the biting cold outside. The cook is already at work, his hands steady as he stirs a pot of soup. The scent of the simmering broth fills the air, but it is not the rich, comforting scent of a home-cooked meal. It is the scent of survival, simple, hearty, and unpretentious. The food here is not meant to indulge, it is meant to sustain. The bread is dense, the meat is tough, and the vegetables are few, but it is enough. In the Eyrie, enough is all you can ask for. The rest of the staff is already at work. Some are chopping vegetables, others are stirring the pots, and a few are washing the dishes from the previous day's meal. There is no time to waste. The routine of the kitchen is steady, its rhythm unchanging. The cold is a constant companion here, but so is the work. The kitchen is one of the few places where there is a semblance of warmth, where the fires burn and the meals are prepared. But even here, the cold never truly lets go. The stone walls seem to swallow the heat, and the air always feels a little too thin, a little too cold. The servants in the kitchen move with quiet efficiency. There is no conversation, no idle chatter. Everyone knows their role, and everyone performs it without question. It is not a place for conversation or companionship. It is a place for survival, and survival here means work, and more work. The food must be prepared, the water must be hauled, and the tasks must be completed. As the day wears on, the work in the kitchen continues. The fire in the hearth flickers and crackles, sending occasional sparks up into the chimney. The stew simmers, the bread rises, and the meal comes together in quiet, deliberate motion. It is not a feast, but it is enough. It is the sustenance required to survive in the Eyrie, a place where nothing is easy, nothing is comfortable, and nothing is ever truly warm. Outside, the wind continues to howl, its cry filling the empty halls of the fortress. The stone walls tremble slightly under the pressure of the wind, and the cold air rushes through the cracks and crevices in the stone. The wind is never far in the Eyrie, always present, always pushing against you, always reminding you of the mountain that stands watch over this place. It is a force of nature that you cannot escape, a reminder that the Eyrie is not a place of refuge, but a place of endurance. When the meal is finally ready, the servants line up to deliver the food to the great hall. The long corridor that leads to the hall is quiet, the sound of your footsteps the only noise that breaks the stillness. The flickering torches on the walls cast dancing shadows on the stone, and the cold air presses in on you as you move down the hall. The vastness of the hall seems to swallow the light, and the echoes of your movements seem to stretch endlessly through the space. The great hall of the Eyrie is both imposing and empty. The high ceilings, the cold stone walls, and the long table at the center of the room all serve as reminders of the isolation of this fortress. There's no warmth here, no comfort. The people who live in the Eyrie are not here to find solace. They are here to survive. The family of House Arryn sits at the head of the table, their presence the only indication that anyone truly lives in this place. The servants stand by, waiting silently as the meal is served. The nobles eat quietly, as if the very silence of the hall demands their attention. The meal, simple and hearty, is enough to sustain them for the evening, but nothing more. The bread is thick and heavy, the stew filling, and the roasted meat tough and satisfying. The family of House Arryn consumes their food without fanfare, their faces grim and distant. There's little joy in the feast. It is a necessary part of survival, just like everything else in the Eyrie. As the meal concludes, the nobles retire to their chambers, and the staff begins their work again. The dishes are cleared, the pots are cleaned, and the fire in the hearth is stoked for the night. The silence returns to the hall, and the wind outside howls once more. The coldness of the Eyrie presses in on you, as it does every night. There is no escape from it, no comfort to be found. All that remains is the work. And the work, just like the cold, never ends. Night falls over the Eyrie with a shiver, the darkness creeping into every corner of the fortress. The fire in the hearths, though stoked for the evening, flickers weakly in the cold air, its warmth only barely reaching the stone walls around it. The cold, as always, presses in from all sides, seeping through the cracks in the fortress's stone, invading every room, every corridor. The Eyrie, high in the mountains and isolated from the world, has no mercy for those who live within its walls. It is a place of endurance, of survival, and the only way to exist here is to become as hard as the stone that surrounds you. The servants begin their slow, steady routines for the night. There is no real rest here, not for the people who live and work in the Eyrie. The fortress may settle into a kind of quiet, but the work continues in its slow, relentless cycle. After dinner, the halls grow quiet, the last remnants of conversation in the great hall fading into silence. The noble family retires to their chambers for the night, and the servants are left to tend to their duties. The wind outside, which had been a constant hum during the day, begins to rise, its howl reverberating through the stone walls. The sound is familiar now, almost comforting in its constant presence, but it still sends a chill through you. The air outside is bitterly cold, and even the thick stone walls of the Eyrie do little to block the wind. The occasional gust rattles the windows, shaking the fortress as if trying to remind those within that the Eyrie is not a place of comfort or ease. It is a place where survival takes precedence, and the elements will not be denied. As you move down the long, cold corridors to the servants' quarters, the air grows even colder, the stone pressing in around you. The light from the lanterns flickers as the wind continues its assault. The halls are quiet now, the noise of the kitchen and the great hall fading as you walk past empty rooms. The air feels thicker here, as though the weight of the mountain itself is pressing down on the entire fortress. Even in the dim glow of the lanterns, the stone walls seem to absorb the warmth, leaving the rooms chilly and unwelcoming. The servants' quarters are humble, small rooms with little decoration. The walls are bare, save for the occasional simple cloak or worn-out piece of fabric hanging by the window. The rooms are not meant for comfort. They are meant for survival. The beds are simple, the blankets thin but necessary, offering some warmth against the unrelenting cold. Every room is filled with the scent of damp stone, the smell of cold earth, and the faint trace of firewood from the hearths below. There is little conversation as the servants prepare for bed. The silence that fills the quarters is almost suffocating. No one speaks of their weariness or the long hours spent working. There is no time for such things. In the Eyrie, the work is the focus, and everyone plays their part without question. The isolation here has made the people of the Eyrie strong in their own way, but it has also made them distant from each other. The coldness of the fortress mirrors the coldness of their lives. There is no room for idle chatter, no space for friendships. The work is their life, and nothing more. As you prepare for bed, you try to shake the chill from your body. You pull your blanket tight around you, curling up in an attempt to find some warmth. The fire in the hearth has long since died down, leaving only a faint glow of embers behind. The cold from the stone floor seeps into your limbs, and the wind outside rattles the shutters with relentless force. You close your eyes, trying to will yourself into sleep, but the cold and the silence make it difficult. There is no comfort in this place, no relief from the demands of the mountain. But sleep eventually finds its way to you, though it is restless and fleeting. The wind howls throughout the night, its mournful cry filling the fortress with a reminder of the isolation that surrounds you. The cold is ever present, pressing in from all sides. The Eyrie does not offer peace, nor does it offer rest. It offers only endurance. The morning comes quickly, as it always does. The first light of dawn barely creeps through the thick stone walls of the Eyrie. The cold air presses in through the cracks, a reminder that even the smallest bit of warmth is fleeting here. The servants wake early, as they always do, to begin their daily routines once again. There is no time to linger in bed. There is no time for rest. The work of the Eyrie continues, unyielding and constant. The climb to fetch water from the base of the mountain is the first task of the day. The buckets must be filled, and the water must be hauled up the narrow, treacherous path. The cold air stings your skin as you step out of your room and into the hall, your breath forming visible clouds in the air. The stone floor is even colder than it was the night before, and the chill seems to sink into your bones. The servants are already gathering in the hall, ready to make the long trek down the mountain. The work is the same every day, but it never gets easier. The climb, the cold, the weight of the water, these are constant challenges that define life in the Eyrie. There is no room for hesitation. The tasks must be done, no matter the difficulty, no matter the exhaustion. The wind outside greets you as you step into the courtyard, its sharp bite cutting through the layers of clothing you've donned. The snow is deep, and the path to the well is treacherous, winding down the mountain, narrow and icy. The wind howls in your ears as you make your way down, the sound of it filling your mind and drowning out everything else. The cold is relentless, biting at your exposed skin, but you continue on, step by careful step. The path down is just as difficult as it has always been, but the cold air seems to make every movement more taxing. The weight of the buckets is heavy, pulling at your arms, and the wind fights you with every step. The well is far below, nestled at the base of the mountain, and it feels like an impossible distance to reach. The climb down is steep, and every step feels like a battle against the mountain itself. The cold air leaves you gasping for breath, and your muscles ache with the effort. When you finally reach the well, you pause for a moment to catch your breath. The well seems small in the vastness of the mountain, its depths hidden beneath the icy surface. You lower the bucket slowly, the creaking of the rope as it moves down into the water echoing in the quiet of the valley. The stillness of the world around you is overwhelming. The wind howls in the distance, but here, by the well, it feels like you are the only one left in the world. The cold is all-encompassing, and the silence is deafening. The journey back up is even more difficult than the descent. The weight of the water is heavy, and the path grows steeper with every step. The wind picks up, making the climb more treacherous, but there is no choice. The work must be done. There is no stopping, no resting, no slowing down. The fortress above demands your strength, your endurance, and your will to continue. As you reach the top of the mountain once again, your body aches from the effort, and the cold has seeped deep into your bones. But you are back. You have completed the task, and the fortress waits, still as ever. The work of the Eyrie continues, and you are just one small part of its unyielding cycle. The wind may howl, the cold may bite, and the mountain may stand tall and silent against you, but life in the Eyrie continues. It is a life of survival, of endurance, and it will go on, whether you are ready or not. The morning light is a faint, pale glow through the heavy mist that clings to the high peaks of the Eyrie. The mountain is cloaked in a shroud of snow and ice, the very air itself cold and thin. Every step feels like a struggle, the mountain testing your strength with each breath you take. Even the sun, which should bring some warmth, is barely visible through the thick clouds that linger above, as if the sky itself has resigned to the cold. You wake early, as always, your body aching from the constant demands of the mountain. The bed, though simple, offers no comfort against the chill that surrounds you. The stone beneath you is cold, the blanket thin and unyielding. The fortress of the Eyrie, isolated and stark, provides little relief from the elements. Even the faint warmth of the hearth in the corner of your room has long since faded. You roll out of bed, the cold air biting at your exposed skin, and pull on your cloak, wrapping it tightly around you. You can feel the thinness of the air in your lungs as you take a deep breath. The altitude here makes every movement a little more difficult, and the chill in the air gnaws at your bones. The walls of your room are thick, made of the same stone that forms the entire structure of the Eyrie. There are no windows that offer a view of the outside world. Instead, the stone encloses you, keeping the world at bay, keeping you separate from everything below. The only sounds are the faint creaks of the building as it settles, and the ever-present wind howling through the narrow corridors, trying to force its way into the fortress. The stone seems to hum with the isolation that defines this place. The Eyrie is a place of survival, not comfort. It is a fortress, a stronghold of strength, but also one of solitude. The servants' quarters are no different. The cold stone floors are hard beneath your feet as you step into the hallway, the chill of the morning seeping into your limbs. The corridors are dark and silent, lit only by the flickering light of lanterns that hang from the walls. There are no sounds of laughter or conversation. The air is heavy with the weight of silence, broken only by the occasional creak of the building or the faint sound of someone moving through the halls. The servants move quietly, as they always do, performing their duties without complaint. The life of a servant in the Eyrie is not one for comfort or conversation. It is a life of work, of survival, and the weight of that life presses down on every movement. As you make your way to the kitchen, the cold winds of the Eyrie seem to follow you. The kitchen is one of the few places where warmth can be found, but even there, it is fleeting. The hearths crackle with fire, sending a faint warmth through the air, but the cold stone of the walls seems to swallow the heat, leaving the room just as cold as the corridors. The cook, already at work, stirs a pot of stew, the smell of the simmering broth filling the room. The simple meal is just enough to sustain the people of the Eyrie, but there is no room for excess. The food here is practical, designed to nourish and sustain, but never to indulge. You watch the cook for a moment, taking in the steady, rhythmic movements of his work. There is no haste, no rush. Everything is done at a pace that matches the unyielding passage of time in the Eyrie. The cook has learned to move with the mountain, to work at its pace, never faster or slower than what is required. He is a man of routine, his hands moving with quiet precision as he prepares the meal for the day. The kitchen is filled with the soft sounds of his work, wooden spoons scraping against the sides of pots, the faint sizzle of the stew, and the quiet rustle of ingredients being added. The fire crackles in the hearth, but even the warmth of the flames can't fully chase away the chill in the air. The other servants work quietly around you, chopping vegetables, preparing the bread, and cleaning the pots from the previous meal. There is no conversation, no idle chatter. The work is all-consuming, and there is little room for anything else. The silence of the kitchen is broken only by the soft sounds of the tasks being carried out, but even these sounds feel muffled, as if the mountain itself is absorbing the noise. There is no hurry here, only the slow, steady rhythm of work. The kitchen is the heart of the Eyrie, the one place where life seems to continue in a somewhat predictable way. But even here, the cold presses in. The fire may burn brightly, but the stone walls still seem to absorb its warmth, leaving the room colder than it should be. As the meal is prepared, you take a moment to step outside. The courtyard of the Eyrie is as desolate as the rest of the fortress, the snow covering the ground in a thick, unbroken blanket. The wind is sharp against your skin as you walk through the courtyard, the path leading to the well. The cold is even more intense outside. Every step feels as though it could be your last, as though the mountain itself is trying to keep you from reaching the well. The snow crunches beneath your boots, and the wind howls, the sound almost deafening in its intensity. The well is located at the far end of the courtyard, its base barely visible through the snowdrifts that have built up over the days. You pause for a moment at the well, taking in the scene around you. The wind blows across the valley, and the mountains in the distance seem to fade into the mist. The landscape is desolate and harsh, the snow-covered peaks towering above you. There is no sign of life here, only the cold and the wind, the ever-present reminders of the isolation that defines the Eyrie. The world below, with its bustling cities and kingdoms, feels so far away, like a distant dream. Here, in the Eyrie, there's only survival. There's no luxury, no comfort. There's only the mountain and the people who endure it. You fill the bucket with water, the coldness of the well water a shot to your hands. It is not a simple task, but it is a necessary one. The water must be hauled up, and you are the one to carry it. There is no one else to take your place. The journey back up is as difficult as the descent. The path is steep, the snow thick, and the wind relentless. Every step feels like it's fighting against you, trying to push you back down the mountain. But you press on, the weight of the water a constant reminder of the work that must be done. The mountain doesn't stop, and neither can you. The cold seems to press in harder the higher you climb. The air is thinner, the wind sharper, and the climb becomes more treacherous. You stop to catch your breath for a moment, your chest tight from the effort. The cold air stings as it fills your lungs, and every step becomes a battle. The weight of the water makes the climb even more difficult, pulling at your arms and shoulders. But you press on, each step another reminder of the harshness of life in the Eyrie. The work is never easy, but it must be done. When you finally reach the top, your legs ache, and your breath comes in sharp, ragged gasps. The cold air is unbearable, and the wind seems to cut right through you. But you've made it. The water is back in the Eyrie, and the fortress is one step closer to surviving another day. You step inside, your hands numb from the cold, and make your way to the kitchen to deposit the water for the next task. The work never stops. The wind may howl outside, the cold may press in from all sides, but the work must go on. The Eyrie will endure, and so will those who call it home. The hours stretch on in the Eyrie, moving at their own slow, unrelenting pace. The cold, though familiar, never becomes any less biting. The mountain that looms over the Eyrie is a constant presence, silent, watchful, and ever hungry for those who dare to live beneath its shadow. It is a place where time seems to move differently, where the days blur together in a never-ending cycle of cold, work, and isolation. The wind, as always, howls around the fortress, its mournful cry filling the narrow corridors. It's as if the very mountain is alive, its breath constant and unyielding, pressing down on everyone within its walls. The stone floors of the Eyrie, though worn smooth by centuries of use, still carry the chill of the mountain with them. Even the thickest of cloaks and the hottest of fires can do little to stave off the cold that presses in from every direction. You've grown used to it, in a way. It has become a part of your existence, something you can no longer escape. But that doesn't make it any less exhausting, any less suffocating. In the servants' quarters, the cold is almost unbearable. The stone walls, thick and unyielding, seem to trap the chill in every corner of the room. The bed is simple, too simple to offer much comfort, and the thin blanket provides little warmth. Every morning, you wake to the same reality: the cold, the stone, the silence. There is no room for comfort in the Eyrie. It is a place where survival takes precedence, where each day is a battle against the elements, a battle against the cold that never ceases, never falters. The servants wake early, as they always do, before the first light of dawn. The days are long here, the work never-ending. There are no breaks, no moments of rest. The climb for water, the preparation of food, the tending to the needs of the noble family, they are all tasks that must be done, and they must be done quickly, efficiently, without complaint. The work in the Eyrie is repetitive, almost ritualistic in its precision, each task blending into the next. But it is never easy. Every movement, every step, every task is performed against the backdrop of cold, isolation, and a sense of urgency that never fades. Today is no different. You rise from your cold bed, the stone floor beneath your feet sending a shock of cold through your body. You shiver, pulling on your cloak as you step into the hallway. The silence of the Eyrie is all-encompassing. There are no sounds of laughter, no sounds of joy. The fortress is still, as though it were a place frozen in time. The servants move quietly through the halls, their faces tired, their eyes downcast. There is no room for frivolity here, no room for conversation or companionship. The Eyrie is not a place for warmth or connection. It is a place for endurance, for survival. The kitchen is already bustling with activity as you arrive. The cook is stirring a large pot of stew, his movements steady and practiced. The scent of the simmering broth fills the room, but there is no comfort to be found in it. The food is simple, nothing more than what is necessary to keep the people of the area alive. There is no luxury here, no indulgence. The bread is dense, the meat tough, and the vegetables scarce. It is food meant to sustain, not to delight. The hearth crackles in the corner, but the warmth it offers is fleeting, quickly swallowed by the cold stone walls that seem to absorb it all. The other servants move around the kitchen with the same quiet efficiency. They chop vegetables, wash dishes, and prepare the bread for the next meal. Their movements are automatic, practiced, and yet there is no joy in them. The work is just something to be done, something to be endured. There are no idle words, no laughter. Only the steady rhythm of preparation and the constant hum of activity. In the Eyrie, everything is done with purpose, but nothing is ever done with joy. There is no time for joy, only survival. As the day goes on, the work continues. The servants deliver the meals to the noble family of House Arryn, but there is no interaction between them and the staff. The nobles sit at the head of the long table in the great hall, eating their meal in silence, their faces distant and aloof. They are as removed from the servants as the mountain is from the world below. The Eyrie is a fortress, but it is a fortress of isolation. The divide between the nobles and the servants is palpable. It is not just a physical divide, but an emotional one as well. The servants are there to serve, to toil, to endure, but they are never truly seen. They are as invisible as the cold that presses in on the walls, as invisible as the wind that howls through the corridors. As the nobles finish their meal and retire to their chambers, the servants begin their work again. The dishes are cleared, the kitchen is cleaned, and the fires are banked for the night. The silence returns to the Eyrie, as it always does. The wind continues to howl, the cold continues to press in, and the work continues. There is no end to it, no relief from the endless cycle of tasks that must be done. The fortress demands it. The mountain demands it. Once the work in the kitchen is finished, the servants return to their quarters for the night. The cold stone of the hallway feels even colder now, as though the very walls are pressing in around you. The wind continues to howl outside, rattling the windows, but inside the Eyrie, there is no escape from the cold. The walls of the fortress seem to absorb the warmth, leaving only the chill that never seems to leave. You step into your small room. The walls as bare and cold as the rest of the fortress. The fire in the hearth has long since died down, leaving only a faint glow of embers. You pull your cloak tight around you, trying to ward off the cold, but it's a futile effort. The stone beneath you is unyielding, the bed too hard to offer any comfort. You curl up beneath your thin blanket, but even that offers little relief from the chill that settles deep within your bones. You close your eyes, trying to will yourself into sleep, but the wind outside keeps you awake. It's a constant reminder of the isolation that surrounds you. The night is long, and sleep comes fitfully. The cold is never far away, and neither is the silence. You try to find some comfort in the stillness, but there is no peace here. The Eyrie offers no respite, no relief. It is a place where only the strongest can survive, and those who do are shaped by the harshness of their surroundings. When morning finally arrives, it is the same as every other morning in the Eyrie. The cold, the silence, the unrelenting wind. You rise from your bed, your body stiff from the cold, and step into the hallway to begin another day of work. The same routines repeat. The climb to fetch water, the preparation of meals, the endless labor that defines life in the Eyrie. There is no room for rest, no time for idle thoughts. There is only survival, and the fortress will continue to demand its toll until the end. The days in the Eyrie continue, one indistinguishable from the next, each stretching long and cold beneath the constant weight of the mountain. The isolation here is both comforting and suffocating. The cold wind that howls through the corridors of the fortress is a constant companion, its mournful cry reverberating through the stone walls. The mountain, immense and unyielding, stands watch over the fortress, a silent observer of the struggles of those who call it home. In the early mornings, the cold seems to be at its sharpest. The walls of the fortress, thick and cold, seem to absorb all warmth, leaving each room as chill as the air outside. When you rise from your small cot, your limbs stiff from the night's rest, the first thing that hits you is the biting cold that wraps around you. The blanket, though thick, offers little protection against the chill that seeps into your bones. The stone beneath your feet is as unforgiving as ever. The fire in the hearth, though it flickers and crackles with warmth, does little to combat the bitter cold of the Eyrie. The mountain holds the warmth hostage, and no matter how hard the fires burn, the cold remains. You pull on your cloak, tightening it around yourself as you make your way to the kitchen. The cold air clings to you as you walk, the sounds of your footsteps muffled by the stone beneath you. The wind, which has been howling through the night, is still present, its gusts rattling the shutters of the windows. The fortress is built for endurance, but even it cannot shield you from the unrelenting nature of the mountain. The silence of the Eyrie is absolute, broken only by the occasional gust of wind or the faint creaking of the stone as it settles under the pressure of time and the elements. The kitchen, however, is where the warmth can be found, though it is always a fleeting comfort. The cook is already at work, stirring a pot of stew over the fire. The flickering light from the hearth casts shadows on the walls, and the smell of simmering broth fills the air. It is a humble meal, but it is one of the few constants in the Eyrie. The food is simple, nothing extravagant, just enough to sustain the people who live here. The bread is dense, the meat tough, and the vegetables sparse, but it is enough. The work is slow and steady, as always. The cook doesn't rush. No one here does. The pace of life in the Eyrie is dictated by the mountain itself, slow, deliberate, and unyielding. There is no room for hurry. The kitchen staff moves about with quiet efficiency, their faces as tired and worn as the stone that surrounds them. They work in silence, the clink of knives against cutting boards and the soft rustling of cloth the only sounds that break the stillness. There is no room for conversation, no idle chatter. There is only the work, the constant, unceasing work that defines life in the Eyrie. The cook adds spices to the stew, the heat from the fire radiating outward, but it doesn't reach far enough to drive away the chill. The fire burns in the hearth, its warmth offering a brief respite, but it cannot thaw the stone. It cannot thaw the cold that clings to the walls, to the floors, to the very air that fills the fortress. You help with the preparation of the meal, chopping vegetables and stirring the pots as the cook directs. The work is steady, methodical, and you follow the rhythm that has been established here for so long. The repetition of the tasks is familiar, comforting in its predictability, but there is no joy in the work. It is simply something to be done. The meal is not meant to indulge or satisfy beyond the most basic of needs. It is sustenance, plain and simple, but it is necessary. In the Eyrie, there is no room for extravagance or pleasure. The fortress, though grand in its isolation, offers no luxuries, no comforts beyond the basics. The servants work silently, preparing the meals, cleaning the dishes, and attending to the various tasks that must be completed. The hours pass slowly, the work stretching into the afternoon. You don't stop, not unless absolutely necessary. The routine in the Eyrie is relentless. The climb for water, the preparation of food, attending to the noble family, all of it must be done, and it must be done without hesitation. The cold, the isolation, and the silence press down on everyone here, but there is no time to dwell on it. There is only the work. As the evening meal approaches, you help to carry the food to the great hall, where the noble family will die. The vastness of the hall is overwhelming, the high, vaulted ceilings making the space feel even colder than it already is. The long table at the center of the room is set with simple dishes, the platters of food arranged for the lords and ladies of House Arryn. The servants stand by silently, waiting for the meal to be served, but they are not part of the family. They are not part of the life of the Eyrie, not in any real sense. They are there to serve, to fulfill the duties required of them, but they are not truly seen. The nobles of House Arryn sit at the head of the table, eating their meal in silence, their faces distant and cold. There is no conversation during the meal, no warmth in the exchange. The Eyrie, for all its grandeur, does not foster warmth for companionship. It is a place where distance is as much a part of life as the cold. The lord and lady of the house, though their presence commands the room, are as distant as the mountain that towers over them. The rest of the family, their children and retainers, sit in quiet reverence of their position, but there is no camaraderie among them. The table may be set with food, but it is a simple meal, devoid of any joy or pleasure. The silence in the hall is broken only by the sounds of utensils scraping against plates, the soft murmur of conversation among the nobles. The servants move quietly, delivering the food and removing the dishes once the meal is finished. There is no laughter, no light-hearted chatter. The air in the hall is thick with the silence, the weight of the isolation pressing down on everything. There is a coldness here that goes beyond the physical temperature. It is a coldness that permeates every interaction, every movement. The Eyrie is not a place of warmth. It is a place of survival, of endurance. After the meal, the noble family retreats to their chambers, and the servants begin the work of cleaning and preparing for the next day. The great hall empties, but the silence remains. The wind outside picks up, its howl echoing through the vast emptiness of the Eyrie, but it is a sound that no one seems to hear anymore. It is simply part of the background, another constant in the life of the Eyrie. The servants return to their quarters, the chill of the stone walls settling around them as they prepare for the night. There is little conversation as they gather their belongings and prepare for bed. The cold is pressing, and the exhaustion from the day's work weighs heavily on them. There is no rest here, not truly. Sleep is a fleeting respite, but even in sleep, the cold remains, a constant reminder of the harshness of the place. The Eyrie offers no comfort, no warmth, no escape. As you lie in your bed, the wind howling outside, you try to find some semblance of comfort in the silence. But there is none to be found. The Eyrie is a place built on endurance, on survival. It is a place where time moves slowly, and where every day feels like the one before it. The cold, the isolation, the work, they are all part of life here. There is no end to it, no relief. And so, you close your eyes, hoping for rest, but knowing that tomorrow will bring the same relentless cycle of cold, work, and silence. As the days in the Eyrie grow colder, the sense of isolation becomes all the more pronounced. The mountain, ever looming, casts its shadow over the fortress, and life beneath its towering cliffs feels as though it exists in a world apart. There are no visitors, no messages from the world below, only the constant hum of the wind and the unrelenting cold that penetrates every corner of the Eyrie. It's a place designed for endurance, not comfort, and those who live here have learned to accept the stark realities of life at the top of the world. The morning dawns with the same cold light as every other morning. The sky is gray, thick with clouds that offer no promise of warmth or sunshine. The mountain seems to cradle the Eyrie in its cold embrace, trapping the fortress in a world of stone, ice, and silence. The wind howls as it always does, pressing against the walls, rattling the shutters of the windows. The cold seeps through the cracks, finding its way into every room, every hallway. There is no escape from it. It is a part of the Eyrie just as much as the stone, the silence, and the isolation. The servants rise early, as they always do. Their bodies ache from the constant labor, the never-ending cycle of hauling water, preparing food, and tending to the needs of House Arryn. The work is endless, but it is a life they have learned to accept. There is no room for rest here. There is no time for luxury or comfort. The Eyrie demands that its people work to survive, work to endure, work to live another day. The stone floors of the Eyrie are cold beneath your feet as you stand and stretch, the chill in the air biting at your exposed skin. You pull on your thickest cloak, wrapping it tightly around you as you head toward the kitchen. The familiar rhythm of the kitchen greets you, the crackling of the fire, the steady hum of work that never stops. The cook is already preparing the day's meal, his hands steady and practiced as he stirs the pot of stew over the fire. The smell of simmering broth fills the air, but it is not a comforting smell. It is the smell of necessity, simple food meant to sustain, not to indulge. The other servants move around the kitchen, chopping vegetables, preparing the bread, and attending to the various tasks that must be done. The work is silent, as always. There are no conversations, no idle chatter. The pace of life in the Eyrie is one of constant motion, but the stillness of the fortress remains. The cold winds outside press against the walls, but here, in the kitchen, the fire provides a brief reprieve from the chill. Yet, even here, the cold is never far. The stone walls absorb the warmth from the fire, and the air, though warmer than the rest of the fortress, still carries the sharp bite of the mountain. As you work, you can hear the faint hum of the cook's voice as he speaks to the others, giving quiet instructions, but even his words are spoken softly, as if afraid to disturb the silence. There is no laughter, no light-hearted conversations between the servants. The work must be done, and it must be done without pause. In the Eyrie, there is no room for rest or distractions. Every movement is deliberate, every task necessary. The cold is a constant reminder that there is no room for delay. The work must continue. When the meal is prepared, the servants begin their duties, delivering the food to the great hall. The long corridors are empty, the stone walls echoing with the sound of footsteps. The grand hall is as cold and imposing as always. The high ceilings, the long table at the center of the room, and the empty space surrounding it give the hall an air of loneliness. Even with the fire crackling in the hearth at one end of the room, there is no warmth. The stone walls seem to absorb every bit of heat, leaving only the chill of the mountain. The family of House Arryn is seated at the head of the table, their faces impassive as they eat their meal in silence. There is no conversation, no interaction. The coldness of the Eyrie is reflected in their manner, their aloofness. They do not speak to the servants, and the servants do not speak to them. The silence in the hall is oppressive. The clink of silverware against porcelain is the only sound that breaks the stillness. Even the flickering of the fire in the hearth seems muted, as if the flames themselves are aware of the weight of the silence in the room. The nobles of House Arryn eat in quiet reverence, as if the food is a mere necessity, not a moment of enjoyment. There is no laughter, no joviality. The air in the hall is thick with the absence of warmth, both physical and emotional. The Eyrie, for all its grandeur, offers no comfort. The meal is simple, as it always is: bread, stew, and a small portion of roasted meat. There are no extravagant courses, no delicate dishes. The food is not meant to please. It is meant to nourish, to sustain. There is no room for luxury in the Eyrie. Every meal is a reminder of the harshness of life in this fortress. The family of House Arryn is served their food, and the servants stand by silently, waiting to attend to any need, but there is no real need for them. The work is done, and the silence returns. When the meal ends, the noble family retreats to their chambers, their faces cold and distant. The servants clean the table in silence, their movements quiet and efficient. There is no conversation, no idle chatter. The work continues, as it always does. The dishes are washed, the kitchen is clean, and the fires are stoked for the night. The fortress, though quiet and still, is never at rest. There is always work to be done, always something that needs attending to. The fortress stands tall against the mountain, its stone walls unyielding, but the work of those who live within it continues without end. The servants, their work done for the moment, make their way to their quarters. The corridors are cold and silent, the stone beneath their feet unyielding. The cold seems to settle into every corner of the fortress, and though the hearths burn brightly, they offer only a fleeting warmth. The cold of the Eyrie presses in from all sides, and the silence of the mountain surrounds you. There is no comfort here, no relief from the demands of the work or the isolation. The wind continues to howl outside, a constant reminder of the harshness of life in this fortress. As you enter your small room, the cold stone floor greets you, and the chill seeps into your bones. The bed, though simple, is a welcome relief from the hard stone. You wrap yourself in your blanket, but even it offers little comfort. The cold lingers, pressing in on you, reminding you that there is no escape from it. The Eyrie offers no warmth, no solace. It is a place where survival takes precedence, where endurance is the only requirement. The mountain has shaped those who live here, hardened them against the cold, the isolation, and the silence. There is no room for anything else. As you close your eyes and try to sleep, the wind outside howls again, its mournful cry echoing through the fortress. The Eyrie, for all its grandeur, is a place of loneliness. The cold, the stone, the silence, they are all a part of life here, and they will continue to define every day, every hour, every moment. There is no escape. There is only survival. The days blur together in the Eyrie, a monotonous cycle that stretches endlessly. The fortress stands strong against the harsh elements, but inside, life moves at a much slower pace. The cold, the wind, and the isolation are unyielding, but those who live in the area have learned to endure. They have learned that survival is not about comfort, but about resilience. The mountain may push against them, may challenge them at every turn, but they remain. They persevere. For the servants, the work is never-ending. The climb for water, the preparation of meals, the tending to the noble family, these tasks are constant, the daily routine that keeps the fortress alive. But there is no joy in the work. There is no time for relaxation or celebration. The Eyrie demands your full attention, and the people who live here, who survive here, have learned to meet those demands without hesitation. They move through their days with the quiet understanding that the mountain is a force of nature that must be reckoned with. For the noble family of House Arryn, life is distant. The cold does not reach them in the same way it does the servants, but it is still present, still a reminder of the isolation they all face. They live high in the fortress, above the rest, and though they are surrounded by luxury in their chambers, the stone walls still press against them, the silence of the Eyrie still weighing down upon them. They too, in their own way, endure. But their endurance is not the same as that of the servants. They do not face the same cold, the same relentless labor. Their lives are quieter, more isolated, but in many ways, they are no less a part of the mountain's cold embrace. At the end of each long, exhausting day, the wind continues to howl outside, a reminder that the world beyond the Eyrie is distant, unreachable. The mountain seems to stretch on forever, a vast, unforgiving expanse that isolates the Eyrie from the rest of Westeros. The fortress, though strong, is still at the mercy of the elements. The people who live here may survive, but they are not untouched by the harshness of the world around them. In the stillness of the night, when the servants return to their small rooms, the silence of the Eyrie is complete. The fire in the hearth slowly dies down, the warmth dissipating into the cold, the fortress settling into the quiet darkness. And as you lay in your bed, your body aching from the constant work, you realize that survival in the Eyrie is not about triumph. It is not about victory or defeat. It is about endurance. It is about the ability to withstand the cold, to bear the weight of isolation, and to continue, day after day, no matter the challenges that come your way. The mountain will always be there. The cold will always be there. And so will the silence. But so will the people who endure, who carry on, who find a way to survive in the harshest of conditions. The Eyrie may be a place of loneliness, but it is also a place of strength. The fortress, for all its cold and isolation, stands as a testament to the resilience of those who call it home. It is a place where survival is a quiet victory, where each day is a small triumph against the mountain's relentless grip. And so, life in the Eyrie continues quiet, unyielding, and full of endurance. The fortress may never offer warmth, but it will always offer the strength to endure. For in the Eyrie, that is enough.